What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was in Bleach with 6 Eyes, Part 1. Now, let's begin. Soul Society. Do you believe he has passed away? In a clearing, 2 young children observed a white-haired man lying on the ground, his eyes concealed by a black shawl. What type of inquiries are you making? It is evident that he has passed away. Otherwise, how could he possibly be present here? Ah no, I meant is he dead, like really dead? It is uncertain. Ultimately, his status is not a matter of our concern. The Academy will commence operations in a few days. It is essential that we make preparations. Indeed, you are correct. Let us proceed. After those words, the 2 kids began to walk away, never looking behind them. This world presents significant challenges. Even children lack compassion. As soon as they departed, the white-haired man, Naruto, opened his eyes. A few hours have elapsed since he entered this unusual world. Initially, he experienced a degree of disorientation. After remaining inactive for several hours and observing various individuals, he gained a clearer understanding of his circumstances. This represented the afterlife. Regardless of the unexpected nature of the situation, Naruto's character remained steadfast, demonstrating resilience in the face of challenges. Despite his passing, he successfully delivered a decisive blow to the most formidable Otsutsuki king, sending him into oblivion. It would be fitting for those children to create a statue in my honor. It is possible that Kakashi may consider writing a book about my experiences. As he contemplated his children, his smile slightly faded. He had to acknowledge that departing from them brought him a sense of sadness. However, they were still alive. Well, enough about this. Engaging in moping is unproductive. Understanding his next steps was of utmost importance at this time. He raised his hand and observed them intently, furrowing his brow. I am experiencing an unusual sensation throughout my body. This does not pertain to my bloodline's cursed energy. He was at a loss for words, yet it was undeniably something more refined. As the name suggests, curse energy originated from the malice inherent in the human heart. From it, entities referred to as curses became visible, and individuals identified as sorcerers or shinobi harnessed this energy to confront them. To begin with, I am indeed correct. What could be the reasons for feeling sleepy, tired, and hungry? This was yet another issue that he did not fully comprehend. However, the most unfortunate aspect. He furrowed his brow as he concentrated. This continued for a brief moment before he exhaled a sigh. I have retained the 6 eyes, however. I am currently unable to utilize Limitless or Sense Karama and my chakra. Is it due to the difference in energy? I will need to investigate that further at a later time. This was a significant setback. As he was unfamiliar with the utilization of his current energy, he found himself unable to take any action at this time. While the 6 eyes would significantly aid in managing this new energy source, the loss of Limitless in his chakra, including Karama, indicates that he has forfeited over 90 of his total power. Fortunately, he was not situated in a hazardous area or anything of that nature. I lack sufficient information. I currently lack financial resources, do not possess a residence, and am dressed in an unconventional kimono. This is an excellent beginning. I perceive myself as the protagonist in a narrative. Despite the challenging circumstances, Naruto managed to find humor in the situation. It was not due to a naive belief that everything would turn out fine. He simply would not yield to adversity. He rose to his feet and proceeded to follow the path taken by the 2 children. He sensed a significant concentration of energy similar to that coursing through his body. These marked his initial steps in the Soul Society. Upon departing from his previous resting location, he soon observed what appeared to be a city. However, upon arrival, it would have been more appropriate to refer to it as a village or a slum. Upon arrival and after posing several inquiries, he unexpectedly received answers with relative ease. Ultimately, the majority, if not all, present had previously experienced the same circumstances he now faced. This location represents the afterlife. Seated on a rock on the opposite side of the city, Naruto let out a deep sigh, reflecting thoughtfully. In a secluded part of his heart, he had maintained a degree of skepticism. However, at this moment, all doubts had dissipated. However, what truly frustrated him about his current situation was not the prospect of dying or the experience of the afterlife. I dedicated my life to safeguarding the world, and now, in death, I find myself in the depths of the afterlife. Or perhaps it is due to my infidelity. However, it should not have been sufficient to negate my positive karma, correct? He chuckled softly to himself before letting out another sigh. If the information he received was accurate, then he found himself in the Soul Society, specifically in the 80th North District of a region known as Rakangai. The area where lost souls typically manifested. Among all the information he received, the detail that notably captured his attention was Shinigami and Hollow. Upon passing, individuals typically had two potential destinations based on their circumstances. Either their souls were directed by Shinigami, allowing them to enter the Soul Society, or they transformed into hollows and proceeded to Hueco Mundo. This resembles the work of sorcerers and the casting of curses. Furthermore, hollows originate from souls, and Shinigami are also advanced forms of souls. They utilize the same energy source. Similar to how sorcerers and curses utilize cursed energy. Furthermore, Shinigami have the ability to descend to Earth to eliminate hollows. This holds significant importance. He was unaware of the events that transpired following his death. Although he successfully eliminated Shiba Tsutsuki, the future remains uncertain. If he had the opportunity to return to Earth, of course, this is with the assumption that time flows the same. Based on his attire and demeanor, he was confident that this heaven was connected to the elemental nations. However, there were numerous uncertainties. But thankfully, he now had a solution. I must pursue the path of becoming a Shinigami. Could you please clarify my current location? A youthful silver-haired man stood in a forest, consuming hard bread. He observed his surroundings with a furrowed brow. Hello, are you certain you are not playing with me? He cast a stern glance over his shoulder at a muscular man, who promptly started to tremble under the intensity of his gaze. It has been approximately 1 week since he departed from the 80th North District, recognized as one of the most challenging districts encountered. Throughout his journey, he encountered multiple instances of being mugged by various groups of bandits. However, as they did not exhibit any intent to harm, he proceeded to subdue them after extracting all their possessions and the information they possessed. The one shivering behind him currently was his latest victim, and he finally decided that having a guide could help speed things along. Sir, I assure you that I am being truthful. This is indeed the most straightforward route to access the First West District. Naruto expressed a slight frown regarding his change in direction from north to west due to getting lost. However, he remained pleased to realize that he was approaching his goal. The 360 districts of the Soul Society are organized into 4 directions, with 80 districts allocated to each zone. The proximity of the district to the Siriidii correlates positively with the quality of the environment. Furthermore, the sole method to successfully complete the Shinigami test for the Academy was to attain one of the 4 first districts. It appears that even in the afterlife, class distinctions remain prevalent. He chuckled to himself, disregarding the timid bandit, and proceeded to walk while whistling. Behind him, the bandit paused momentarily, contemplating escape. However, upon recalling how the formidable figure before him had defeated his entire team, he suppressed his urge to retreat. Naruto noticed the subtle movement, yet it did not concern him. He was primarily focused on comprehending the energy circulating within his body. Despite his current inability to utilize Limitless or any of his curse techniques, he remained productive and, as a result, gained an understanding of the energy circulating within his body. Ryoryoku. The intrinsic energy circulates among all entities. Initially, he was taken aback by the notion that a soul could experience hunger, fatigue, or even bleeding. However, the solution was unexpectedly straightforward. The greater the Ryoryoku possessed by a soul, the more closely its bodily functions resembled those of humans. Advanced souls may engage in intimate relationships and procreate. In short, the Soul Society wasn't that much different from the normal human society. I am curious about my strength in this world. The bandits were relatively simple to defeat, yet he declined to draw comparisons between himself and them. He required a meeting with one of the so-called Shinigami to assess his current standing. I also need to refine this technique. I should consider familiarizing myself with the power system of this world. At this moment, his sole focus was on enhancing his physical capabilities through this enigmatic energy. However, he remained hopeful that this was not the entirety of the situation. He demonstrated considerable skill in martial arts, yet there was an unparalleled satisfaction in experiencing a sense of absolute power and invulnerability. He harbored the hope that acquiring knowledge of the power system here would enable him to utilize Limitless once more. I am confident in my abilities. I expect to learn quickly. At the very least, having recognized that his chakra and karama are permanently lost, he is fortunate to still possess Rokugan and Six Eyes. At that time, it was due to the synergy of his lineage, Rokugan, and his chakra that he was recognized as the most formidable shinobi. As a result, his mastery of cursed energy and chakra was so refined that it seemed as though he possessed an inexhaustible supply of energy. At this moment, he was confident that he required only 2 or 3 clear examples of how to harness this energy to reclaim his Limitless. The sole obstacle he faced at this moment was the apprehension of disrupting his energy point by directing the energy flow incorrectly. A phenomenon frequently observed among the members of his clan who endeavored to master Limitless despite lacking the requisite talent, including his own son. He may be exceptionally talented, no, let's revise that. He may possess exceptional intellect, yet he understood better than anyone the risks associated with conducting experiments devoid of any established framework. They proceeded to walk in silence for an extended period. The indications of life were increasingly apparent, and he was confident that he was approaching the city. The response was, "Huh?" A piercing shriek rang out, and the birds began to escape. Looking in the direction of the scream, Naruto's mind flew into overdrive. His eyesight abruptly altered, extending well beyond what anyone should be able to perceive. Finally, he was able to catch the scene: 2 presumably young children, one a brown-haired girl and the other a silver-haired boy, confronting a crimson monster with a mask on its face. The girl was wielding a sword, but her stance and shaking hands indicated that she was still inexperienced. Furthermore, the blood gushing from her head suggested that she had already been wounded. A smile appeared on his face. It seems like I will be given a first-hand demonstration about how to use Ryoryoku. Another perspective. On the scene, the brown-haired girl remained steady, her face ashen but her gaze fixed. "Shiro, please listen to me. Take a slow step back before racing as quickly as you can. It's the first district aid should arrive shortly." She still couldn't comprehend how they had been so unfortunate to come across a hole in one of the first districts. Regular sweeps were always performed by official Shinigamis in the first 40 or so districts. However, thinking about it would not improve their condition. Her palm shuddered slightly before gently falling on her sword. Her sword still had no name, and she was only a first-year trainee, but she should be able to buy some time for him, right? Despite the fact that she was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, the blood did not flow above her eye, allowing her to see. "Momo. How can I leave you here?" Unfortunately, the young guy lacked the same enthusiasm as her. He didn't realize that remaining here was only going to make matters worse. Gritting her teeth, she concentrated on the hollow, who appeared delighted to watch them squirm. It was obviously a low-level hollow, yet it was still too much for a trainee like her to beat. "I still haven't mastered any Bakudo spells, so we'll go all out with a Heido." She could already sense people approaching. She simply needed to wait for time. Raising her left palm, she concentrated her Ryoryoku and muttered, "Heido number 12. Fushibai." A net of flames appeared and around the hollow, who was unable to flee in time. Momo Hinamori saw that her action lacked strength, but she didn't have time to recite a full chant. A translucent red rope connected her to the net that surrounded the hollow. A tremendous explosion ensued. "Let's go." Hinamori didn't even wait for the results before hurrying away with the young kid in her arms. Her decision proved sensible since as soon as she jumped away, the area where they had previously stood was ripped open by an almost unscathed depression. She was ready to retreat fully when the hollow raced immediately in front of her, cutting off all escape possibilities. Despair clouded her features as she realized that even her battle was fruitless. She heard it as she was going to toss the small kid in her arm and use him as bait. "Oh, so this is how you use it." Turning around, she was shocked to see a pretty gorgeous silver-haired man emerge from the bush. Her countenance distorted at this sight, and she yelled, "What are you doing here? Flee." She quickly regretted her abrupt behavior as the emptiness switched its focus to the men, who surprisingly appeared utterly unflustered. "Hey, they really like curses, though less ugly, I guess. This imbecile." She had no idea what he was murmuring, but it appeared to irritate the hollow, who sprang at him. She wanted to close her eyes, but suddenly she felt something. An enormous Ryatsu that appeared to push down everything around him. How was it again? Ah, yeah. He gently raised his hand and muttered, Heido number 12, Fushibai. Her vision was instantly turned white. Momo awoke with a start. Before glancing around her. Oh. You finally got up. Her gaze fell onto a silver-haired man sitting in front of a fire. Looking warily at the men, she asked, Where is Shiro? You know, it's pretty rude to talk like this to someone who saved you. Hearing his remarks, she quickly remembered what had happened. The last thing she saw before collapsing was this man utilizing the same approach as her, but with an entirely different result. She flushed and apologized for being so nasty to her savior. I don't mind. At the very least, you understand how to detect your faults. Naruto waved his hand. As for that little shrimp, he said, pointing behind him. There, the young kid who followed her was bound by several strands and hanging upside down from a tree. Naruto smirked, as if he'd pulled off a small trick. That boy wasn't as polite as you, so I had to punish him a little. Momo shuddered slightly before nodding. She wanted to beg a bit, but before she could speak, now, little lady, see, I did not free you from the necessity to pretend to be a hero. Isn't it usual for you to offer me something in exchange? What do you want? She stuttered when she asked. His eyes were penetrating as he stared at her up and down. Let me examine your body, will you? Her cheeks suddenly turned red. She began to stutter, so stunned that she couldn't even organize her ideas properly. After all, despite the fact that she was already in her hundreds, she died when she was an adolescent, and her interaction with persons of the opposite sex was pitifully little, whether on Earth or in the Rakangai. What must I do? This was the first time a genius like her, who could already wield Kido despite just joining the academy a few months earlier, was baffled by a question. Hum. 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 She heard her friend's muffled shouts above her. He was most likely attempting to get her to stop listening or something. Unfortunately for him, those behaviors prompted her to make her judgments. With steam billowing over her head, she lowered her shaky hand and moved it carefully toward her garments. The man was without a doubt extremely powerful, and he did save their lives. However, just as she was ready to undress, she was stopped by a hand. Raising her head to look at the guy through watery eyes, she worried if he wouldn't even allow her to take her own clothing off. Meanwhile, Naruto wore a sour frown. He had just attempted a joke. How could he have expected her to respond like that? This girl is more innocent than I expected. She appears to be the type of person who is exploited and then abandoned by a nasty man. Now, how can I explain that? He was astute enough to see that claiming that everything was a joke was probably the worst thing he could do. As so, with a serious gaze, he nodded. Well done. I was curious how far you would go to repay your rescuer. Your activities exceeded my expectations. Now that's enough. When you feel uncomfortable, simply bullshit your way out. This was a test. Indeed. I apologize for causing you distress. I hope you can forgive me. He had been exaggerating about the test, but he was truly apologetic. Making a little girl weep was not one of his pastimes. He did, however, like having mature ladies cry from pleasure. He rose up and extended his hand toward her after wiping her tear with the back of his hand. My name is Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, how about you, tiny lady? Sniffing slightly, she accepted his hand and rose up with his assistance. My name is Hinamori. Moma Hinamori. I am a first-year student at Shino Academy. Oh. Looks like I actually hit the jackpot. He said with astonishment, incredible. So you're a future Shinigami? He scowled and said, I thought the entrance exam was already underway. Momo shook her head. We hold an admission exam for new students every semester. The first semester pupils are currently on holiday. This is how I was able to meet 12. Shiro-chan. Raising her head, she recalled how her childhood buddy had been chained and hanging from a tree. She bowed before Naruto and implored, Naruto-san, I know Shiro-chan may be a little boisterous at times, but he doesn't intend any harm. Please forgive him. Naruto shrugged as he looked at the girl who was bowing. He had always felt a little vulnerable among such powerful yet loving and naive individuals. Hinata was like that, and now he had to cope with another one less than a week after his death. A few minutes later, a sad white-haired boy bowed alongside Hinamori. Once again, thanks for saving us. Hinamori murmured before staring at the boy next to her, sighing slightly, and eventually opening his mouth. I apologize for my past behavior. My name is Toshiro Hitsugaya. Thank you for protecting us. Naruto fixed Toshiro with a calm glare. He hadn't noticed it before, but the amount of energy around this small child appeared to be significantly more than that of anybody he had ever met. Even Hinamori didn't have a third of his energy while being a student, implying that either Hinamori was below normal or this guy was considerably above average. Smiling, he caressed the boy's head, who was battling the temptation to swat his hand away. You should have heard my name earlier. Now, how about we travel together to the first district? If this female is like Himawari, and this boy is like Boruto. Even how he acts. Teasing Boruto was one of his favorite ways to spend the time. It seems that he would not be bored for now. Hinamori accepted his proposal. She was still nervous after being nearly murdered by a hollow, and being around someone powerful made her feel better. Naruto-san, are you going to report the situation to the Siridi? Naruto came to a halt and, surprised, pointed at his own face. Me. Why should I? Hinamori was surprised. Aren't you a member of the Kido Corps? The Soul Society's military forces included the Kido Corps, Godai 13, and Onmitsukido. The Kido Corps, as the name suggests, specialized in the application of spells, welcoming individuals who demonstrated proficiency in various forms of Kido. Due to the absence of a sword and his adept application of the Heido spell, Hinamori concluded that he belonged to their ranks. After she articulated her reasoning, Naruto chuckled before responding, I apologize, I didn't intend to find humor in your explanation. I have not yet attained the status of a Shinigami. I have recently entered the Rakangai. This time, Momo and Toshiro were thoroughly astonished. Momo, in particular, stood out, as his unusual words from when he rescued her from the hollow resurfaced in her thoughts. He truly grasped the Heido I demonstrated after only a single observation. With a smile, Naruto acknowledged the admiration directed towards him. Regardless of his status, whether deceased or living. Experiencing admiration from others has consistently been a positive sensation. Please proceed. What is the duration of your current displeasure? Hinamori continued her stride, her thoughts still processing the recent revelation. Following his disclosure, she remained unable to accept his truth. Consequently, she employed several spells she was familiar with as a means of evaluation. The outcome was catastrophic. Regardless of the method she employed, he only required a single glance to reproduce it. What was most concerning was that he did not merely replicate it without thought. He genuinely grasped the underlying mechanics, despite evident deficiencies in his theoretical knowledge. Ultimately, she found herself kneeling in acknowledgement of his superiority. She was now able to comprehend the sense of shock experienced by her senpai in the academy when she mastered the ability to use low-level Kido without any incantation just a few weeks after her enrollment. Hinamori was not an arrogant individual, however. She had to acknowledge that the frequent accolades regarding her genius had somewhat influenced her perspective. At this point, she recognized that her designation as a genius was relative, particularly in comparison to the majority of Shinigami. Summoning her determination, she clenched her fist and stated, I must work even harder. Naruto could only smile in astonishment at the rapidity with which this girl transitioned between expressions. Nonetheless, she possessed a notable sense of humor. It evokes memories of Rock Lee. Now that we have reached an agreement on my capabilities, shall we engage in a discussion? I am keen on joining the academy, but acquiring some foundational knowledge would be beneficial. The most recent bandit he apprehended escaped as soon as he hurried to rescue Momo. However, he did not show any concern for that individual. He chose not to pursue him. Hinamori acknowledged, Naruto-san, do you have a specific question in mind? Naruto acknowledged with a nod, as he had a specific question in mind. One aspect that significantly troubled him, what is the reason for our ability to bleed? He could comprehend the necessity for powerful souls to consume sustenance, yet he found it difficult to grasp the reason behind their capacity to bleed. Furthermore, low-level souls are also capable of bleeding. Hinamori smiled in acknowledgement, this is a fairly standard question. Hinamori closed her eyes to collect her thoughts. In a certain regard, our bodies are quite similar to human bodies. The primary D. Furthermore, if he arrived here, it indicated that achieving the reverse was not out of reach. Was it not merely a journey through dimensions? He was Naruto Uzumaki, and there were no limits to his capabilities. I must first become a Shinigami to gain greater access to information and secrets. I also need to recover Limitless. Let's proceed. At the location where Naruto dispatched the hollow, a group of 6 individuals clad in black kimonos, each with a katana sheathed at their side, surveyed the area. A petite girl with blonde hair and gray eyes asked, "Vice Captain Shiba, what is happening?" Shiba, a tall individual with spiky black hair, wore a frown as he surveyed the scorched earth surrounding him. The evidence from the battlefield indicates that the adversary was insubstantial. The individual responsible for his removal should be positioned at a level no lower than that of the 3rd seat or vice captain. Shiba displayed a look of discontent. A hollow should not have manifested in the 1st district. This may be attributed to a lack of attention. The issue was the individual who removed this hollow. Ryatsu served as a form of identification or a unique digital signature. No 2 Ryatsu were entirely alike. Having served as a vice captain, he was well acquainted with the Ryatsu of all seated officers within the Gotei 13. Whether it be captains, vice captains, or lieutenants. He briefly contemplated the Kido Corps or the Secret Force, but it was nearly impossible as they rarely left the Shinigami without a compelling justification. Furthermore, there should be no individuals of such rank within the Kido or Secret Forces, except for Captain Soifan or Vice Captain Marekio Omida. This situation is concerning. He quietly muttered to himself as he started to scratch his hair. Let us proceed to the 1st district. Vice Captain Ranjaku should remain assigned to that location. We will ask if she observed any discrepancies. Affirmative. All the Shinigami present acknowledged their superior before disappearing from their positions with remarkable speed. 1st West District. In his view, the 1st district did not significantly differ from the previous one. It still resembled Konoha village. What truly astonished him, however, was that at the edge of the village, across the river, he could already discern some structures that he presumed were part of the Shinigami. He gestured in the direction and asked, "Excuse me, Momo, is that the Shinigami? If that is the case, what is the reason for the lack of participation here?" Momo offered a wry smile, stating, "Despite appearances, should anyone attempt to intrude, a formidable barrier will manifest. For gates exist, one designated for each district, with a gatekeeper assigned to each gate." Upon the mention of the gatekeeper, her smile brightened. He is known as Jidanbo Ikenzaka. He may come across as somewhat rough around the edges, yet he is well regarded by the majority of individuals in this environment. Upon entering the academy, you will ask all that knowledge. She lifted her head and glanced at the sunset, her brows furrowed. It's getting late. What should I do? Toshiro, who had been quiet up to this point, understood what was on her mind. Hey, why don't you go ahead and make your report? I've got him covered. Grandma won't mind since he helped us out. Hinamori paused for a moment, then looked over at Naruto and asked, "Hey, Naruto-san, what do you think?" Naruto was pretty chill about it. He didn't mind sleeping under the stars at all. "I'm doing well." Then, bowing towards him with a deep 90 bow, "Thanks for saving our lives." She lifted herself up and waved while starting to run. "Shiro, Naruto-san, I've got to make a report, catch you later." As he watched her walk away, Naruto shook his head and couldn't help but smile a little. He's been dealing with a pretty bad headache lately. Even though his new body felt stronger, keeping the Rokugan active without any blindfold or anything like that was really taking a toll on his mind. "Alright, kid, let's head out." Toshiro gave a small nod and then moved forward. He was naturally a quiet person. He was just being a bit impulsive at first because he was still riding the wave of emotions after almost facing death. Before long, he'd be stepping into the academy, bringing him one step closer to his dream. As the sun began to rise in the sky, there was a house not too far from the 1st district of the Rakangai, and it had some pretty unusual decorations. There were 4 people sitting and facing each other. So, there were 2 guys and 2 gals. A guy with black hair was rocking a matching black kimono, complete with a vice captain badge on his arm. He glanced at everyone else as he started talking. "Hey there, big brother. What brings you around? Hey, just a heads up, this district isn't really under your jurisdiction right now." He had a serious look on his face when he said that. So, he was Kaion Shiba, the vice captain of the 13th Division. In front of him stood an older man who had the same hair color and some similar features. It was pretty clear that the two were connected. There were still two major things that set them apart. He was sitting in such a sloppy way, like everything around him was just a hassle. Then there was this big white cloak, and on the back, it had the number 10 written in kanji. So, he was Isshin Shiba, the captain of the 10th Division. Isshin could only manage a bittersweet smile in front of his somewhat serious brother. Everyone in the Soul Society knew about the 4 great noble families. Some families are so influential that even the Central 46, the governing body of the Soul Society, have to show them respect. So, there were the Shihoin, the Kuchiki, the Ise, and the Tsuneyashiro. What not many people realized was that, in truth, there were 5 great families instead of just 4. The Shiba is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, for reasons that aren't clear, the Shiba family lost their status and, to make matters worse, they were even kicked out of the Siriidi. Right now, since the oldest son in the family was a captain, they should have been able to at least get the family back to being a minor noble. Unfortunately, that didn't happen at all. How long are you planning to stay mad? I'm really not looking to take on the role of head of the family, you know that. Kane shook his head and said, this isn't the reason. Even though I really disliked you back then, once I joined the 13th Division, I started to see just how complex things are in the Siriidi. What really gets under my skin is watching you play the tragic heroine, acting like you've sacrificed everything for the family. A vein bulged on his forehead when he heard this. The soft chuckle from the two women there didn't really help matters. Kukaku, Ranjaku, you can't be serious, do you really think that's funny? Kukaku Shiba, a young woman with striking black hair and captivating curves, covered her mouth as she shook her head. Her green eyes sparkled with amusement, but she didn't want to embarrass her eldest brother any more than necessary. On the flip side, Ranjaku Matsumoto, the vice-captain of the 10th Division, was already in stitches. Her long blonde hair swayed gently as her large breasts moved with each breath. The outfits worn by the two women showed off a fair amount of cleavage. But, you know, even though Kukaku wasn't exactly tiny, Ranjaku was just on a whole different level. Kyan, already used to the antics of the laughing duo, turned his attention back to his brother. Hey, can you tell me why you're here? Isshin scratched his head and let out a sigh before saying, the old man sent me after we got the report from that trainee. It's pretty strange for a hollow to show up in the 1st district, but the idea that a new soul could supposedly use Kido after just one glance is something else entirely. Can you believe it? It's been 3 days since Momo made her report. Kyan frowned and asked, what about my captain? You know how his health has been, right? He ran into a bit of a problem at the reunion. What? Kyan quickly got up from where he was sitting. Everyone knew that Jushiro Yukitake, the captain of the 13th Division, was one of the oldest captains around, but he also had pretty fragile health. Hey, no need to stress. That two-faced psycho really handled him. Kyan sighed in relief. He totally knew who his brother was talking about. Retsu Unohana is the captain of the 4th Division and known as the best healer in the Soul Society. Sitting back, he let out a sigh of relief. Oh, I get it. If he's with Captain Unohana, then we really don't have anything to worry about. Hey, why do you keep insulting her? I get that she can be a bit tough during her treatment, but I really don't think she's two-faced. Haha, if you only knew. Just like Yukitake, Isshin was one of the oldest captains in the Soul Society. But when it comes to Unohana, he really feels like just a junior. She was almost as old as the captain commander, which meant she was a woman over 2,000 years old. But that wasn't the whole story. He was well aware that the captain of the 4th Division hadn't always been the kind and caring woman she seemed to be. Being the first Kenpachi and the inaugural captain of the 11th Division really shows just how fierce and bloodthirsty she was. Oh, and before she became a founding member of the Godei 13, she was actually one of the most notorious criminals in the Soul Society. Still, this was kind of an unofficial secret, and since he really didn't want a visit from that crazy psycho, he figured it was best to change the subject. Never mind. So, anyway. So, we in the 2nd Division got the mission. First, we need to keep an eye on him to see if he actually has a level that's equal to or even higher than a seated officer. Next, if we find out that it really is the case, we need to figure out his tendency. If he's all set, we need to ensure he gets into the academy. It would be really interesting to have someone as talented as him around. What if he's a danger? Kaien was curious. So, we just go ahead and take him out. In another part of Rakongai, a silver-haired guy stood there with his shirt off, his eyes wrapped in white bandages, and he let out a little sneeze. Hey, is someone chatting about me when I'm not around? Maybe you're just feeling chilly because you're standing there like an exhibitionist so early in the morning. A boy with equally silver hair, who could easily be mistaken for his brother, made a sarcastic comment while enjoying a slice of watermelon. So, it was Naruto Uzumaki and Toshiro Hitsugaya, right? Naruto just shrugged off the sarcasm and wiggled his finger, TCH. 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 I don't think you get it. My body is like a masterpiece. It's great to be in the first seat to really enjoy it. What do you think, Momo? Huh. Momo, happily munching on her watermelon, was a bit startled when her name was called. She glanced back at Naruto's well-defined body and couldn't help but nod, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. It wasn't like it was the first time she had seen a guy without his shirt on. You know, it turns out that most Shinigami were guys. It was something you'd see pretty often at the academy. She had to admit, though, that she wasn't really used to seeing a guy like that Southwest up close. It was definitely the case, especially since Naruto was super shameless and always found a way to tease her. During the 3 days they spent together, the three of them got pretty close and became good friends. Naruto, feeling his ego get a little boost once more, went back to his usual routines. With his new body, it looked a lot like the old one, but there were plenty of little differences here and there. So, he really needed some training to regain the control he once had. Hey Momo, why don't you wrap up your snack and come on over? I'm all warmed up now. Momo dove her head deeper into the watermelon and gulped it down in one go before sprinting over to Naruto. During those 3 days, Hinamori was always training with Naruto. It's amazing to think that just 3 days have passed, and her way of moving, breathing, and being aware of her surroundings has totally transformed. Even though her grasp of Kido was better than Naruto's at the moment, you can't forget that he had been battling curses for over 10 years back when he was alive. That experience isn't something that just disappears. By sharing those experiences with Momo, he was turning what was already a genius into something monstrous. After a few hours of training, Naruto took a moment to stretch before heading out, leaving Momo panting and sweaty. So, I've got to figure something out. Can you repeat some of the lower-level Bakudo? Shiro, make sure she stays on track. Toshiro waved his hand, clearly not that interested, while Momo started training on her own. After leaving the two kids who unexpectedly became his students before he even realized it, Naruto stepped out of the compound and made his way somewhere. He took just a few minutes to get to a pretty remote area. When he got there, he paused for a moment and started to stretch a bit. Well. I'm not sure who you are, but don't you think it's a bit rude to be spying on people? All he got in response was silence. Before a group of ninja-like soldiers showed up all around him, completely surrounding him. But, Naruto didn't even look their way. Even with his eyes covered, he was totally focused on one direction. A big guy with a bag of chips and a petite woman in matching black outfits with a white haori strolled into view. I am taken aback. It is surprising that our discovery occurred so rapidly. The woman regarded him, her curiosity unmistakably reflected in her gaze. Initially, she was not obligated to undertake this mission. However, she saw it as an opportunity to train some new recruits of the secret force. At this point, it appeared that this mission would prove to be more engaging than she had anticipated. Naruto displayed a serious expression for the first time in an extended period. Despite the two individuals before him restraining their abilities, he was confident of it. The two individuals demonstrated considerable strength. A smile appeared on his face. The situation has taken an intriguing turn. Soifan, captain of the 2nd Division of the Godai 13 and commandant of the Secret Force, was meticulously observing the individual known as Naruto Uzumaki, and a singular thought occupied her mind. I have a negative opinion of him. In addition to his notable attractiveness and the overwhelming nature of his power for someone so new, what truly frustrated her was his apparent indifference. The manner in which he communicated revealed a subtle arrogance in his choice of words. Every detail reminded her of a particular individual. That individual Kasuke. Nearly 60 years have passed since he departed from the Siritii alongside her mistress. Even after 60 years, recalling this elicited a strong desire to express frustration and anger. We should concentrate our efforts. She promptly chose to avoid confronting this individual. She was no longer merely a minor guard accompanying the princess, as had been the case previously. Due to her role, it was essential for her to maintain a clear separation between emotions and professional responsibilities. This outing was intended to serve as an evaluation for the new team members. I cannot assert that they failed, as both of us were indeed discovered. Should I have them engage in combat with him? She contemplated for a moment. The mission was intended to proceed to the extermination phase solely if the individual posed a threat. Unfortunately, they were unable to gather sufficient information to assess whether he posed a risk or represented a valuable asset. Furthermore, if she managed the situation improperly, she could inadvertently alienate him from them, despite his initial intentions. If I do not succeed in my mission on the first day, the Captain Commander will take severe action against me. Naruto, sensing no hostility from those around him, recognized that they were merely there to observe him. Did I really make an error? The familiar scenario of a man entering a dimly lit alley and confronting those following him, before engaging in a physical altercation, has consistently been portrayed as impressive in films. What led to his failure at the initial stage? The situation entered a period of uncomfortable silence. Both parties were uncertain about how to proceed. A subtle, cool breeze could be sensed entering the scene. Contemplating the situation, Naruto suggested, perhaps we should proceed as if nothing occurred. Please continue with your activities, and I will proceed as though I have not observed your actions. Is that agreeable? Soifan regarded Naruto with a neutral expression, contemplating how one could possess such a remarkably punchable face. What she did not anticipate was that one of her soldiers lost control and swiftly moved behind the individual known as Naruto, utilizing a Shuinpa. Despite his remarkable speed, she perceived him as moving at a leisurely pace, allowing her to observe each of his actions with clarity. That individual. She expressed her frustration and was prepared to intervene, but halted abruptly as she observed Naruto's next move. He smiled calmly as he took 2 steps to the side, skillfully evading the strike that, though not lethal, would have undoubtedly caused him injury. This was succeeded by a twirl, followed by a decisive blow to the stomach. In a matter of seconds, one of her supposed elites was eliminated by a newcomer without any opportunity to respond. What methods did you employ to prevent him? Soifan asked, appearing perplexed. His movements were not characterized by speed. He moved at a pace that was slightly quicker than that of the average individual. Nevertheless, her soldier was unable to mount a response. Naruto responded to the question with a smile, lifting his eye cover to reveal a pair of striking blue eyes that sparkled like jewels. It becomes straightforward when visibility is present. You. Expressing her displeasure at the comment, she gestured to 4 others to advance, though her aim was not to inflict harm upon him. Naruto nonchalantly shrugged and lowered the eye cover once more. I was being truthful, however. In his realm, all individuals of the Namikaze clan possessed the ability to utilize Limitless to varying degrees. However, it is only when Limitless and the Rokugan are interconnected that they can realize their fullest potential. Limitless can be described, in a straightforward manner, as a form of time-space manipulation. However, Rokugan remained competitive. One of the most remarkable abilities enabled the user to experience a moment of reality as if it lasted over 1 minute in his mind. This ability proved to be highly effective in combat situations. Even a single second has the potential to alter the outcome. Amusing. Those individuals certainly appear to be quite anxious. In his present reality, a realm unique to him, all colors gradually diminished until only a stark monochrome of black and white remained. Some individuals may perceive it as an unusual ability, however, such assumptions would be incorrect. Oh! This is quite impressive. With a sense of amusement, Naruto observed as the individuals leaping towards him seemed to move in slow motion. Their directness was quite amusing. Furthermore, his present physique exhibited significantly greater strength compared to his previous one. As a result, he was able to harness greater power than previously. If I possessed Limitless, evasion would be unnecessary. As he contemplated the strategy for recovering Limitless, he initiated his actions. The subsequent events were beyond Soifan's comprehension. Previously, she held the position of personal guard to Princess Yoruichi and observed her transformation from a typical lord to the fastest individual in history. even to the extent of acquiring the title of the Flash Goddess. As the commander of the Secret Force, a unit specialized in the use of Shuanpa, she was accustomed to all feats of speed. She might have accepted it had the men moved with such speed that he became imperceptible. However, his pace is quite unhurried. He was not notably quicker than the assailants, nor did he employ any Kido techniques. Despite this, none of them were able to make contact with him, let alone inflict any harm. He seemed to possess the ability to foresee future events. Every step he took positioned him perfectly to either evade or counter the assaults. At times, he would encourage them to engage in physical interactions or create disturbances among themselves. He demonstrated a measured approach to energy, utilizing only the requisite amount of strength as needed, rather than exhibiting excessive power. The most unfavorable. He was performing all of this while his eyes were concealed by a blindfold. The confrontation was brief and concluded as straightforwardly as it commenced. The squad members remained gathered around Naruto, as he had not inflicted significant damage upon them, and their training had equipped them to continue fighting despite sustaining serious injuries. Nevertheless, despite not being significantly injured, their confidence was almost completely shattered. This confrontation represented one of the most significant humiliations they had ever experienced. Omida, the vice-captain of the 2nd Division, displayed a frown upon observing their behavior and was preparing to intervene. However, a gesture from Soifan's hands prevented him from proceeding. "Captain, please be quiet." She regarded Naruto with an unusually serious expression. She was unaware of his true strength, yet it was evident that he was at least on par with a mid- or high-class vice-captain. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Soifan, the captain of the 2nd Division and the commander of the Secret Force. What is your perspective?" Her tone had undergone a complete transformation. Although Soifan held a disdain for frivolous men such as Kasuke and the individual before her, she prioritized martial prowess above all else. That was the reason she asked about his name, despite already being aware of it, following her introduction. This was her method of demonstrating respect for an individual of strength. Naruto was an individual who extended respect in equal measure to what he received. There were no justifiable grounds for him to escalate the situation, as the captain had expressed a desire to avoid such actions. Furthermore, he remained unaware of the circumstances in this world. It is worth noting that provoking the army shortly after arrival was not a prudent decision. "I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I do not possess any formal title." "I understand. Naruto, are you interested in joining the Secret Force?" An hour later, Soifan was seated across from Isshin Shiba, another individual she held in great disdain. She found herself sighing inwardly as she contemplated the seemingly frivolous nature of most, if not all, the captains in the Godai 13. For once, Isshin's expression was devoid of its usual levity, as he recognized the significance of the situation at hand. According to Soifan's report, this individual known as Naruto Uzumaki should not be underestimated. Did he accept the offer? He provided an ambiguous response. It appears he aims to acquire additional information by attending the academy. Despite Soifan being somewhat rejected, she did not take offense and, in fact, held the men in even higher regard. Exhibiting strength is commendable. However, entering a situation without sufficient information can be unwise. Isshin let out a soft chuckle. Soifan typically held a discerning view of men, making her positive opinion a notable exception. "Our mission can be considered a success. We have assessed his skills at a minimum. Regarding his intentions, it appears we will need to monitor his school life for further insights." Isshin made the decision to conclude the mission at this point. Ultimately, if the individual could effortlessly uncover a covert team monitoring him, it would be impossible for anyone to surveil him. It is time to provide feedback to the senior individual. A black butterfly with purple wings gracefully flew and landed on his hand. He addressed it in a subdued manner before dispatching it. The butterflies referred to as Jigakucho, or hell butterflies, served multiple functions, including acting as communication tools. Godai 13, 5th Division. At the heart of the Siriidii, the Godai 13 stood with distinction. Within one of the primary structures marked with the number 5, a young man possessing silver-white hair and a disconcerting smile attentively received the report from the hell butterfly. Before him stood a brown-haired man, appearing gentle, adorned with glasses and a white coat over his Shinigami uniform, engaged in similar actions. After a while, once the butterfly vanished, the brown-haired man released a sigh and asked, "So, Jin, what is your opinion?" Jin Ichimaru, the vice-captain of the 5th Division and recognized as the foremost genius of the last century, stated, "Captain Aizen, I believe this matter may not hold significant importance." Jin conveyed this with his characteristic smile as he addressed his captain, Sosuke Aizen. "This is certainly the case, however. I must acknowledge that this individual captured my interest." Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, correct? Adjusting his glasses, Aizen displayed a composed smile as he softly uttered Naruto's name. The situation appeared to become intriguing. Gotei 13, 11th Division. Within the Gotei 13, certain divisions exhibited distinct specialties, such as the 2nd, 4th, and 12th, whereas other divisions were primarily focused on combat. Out of all the divisions, the 11th was known as the overall strongest, not only because of the battle-hungry members that composed it, but more than anything because of its captain. Zaraki Kenpachi. The 11th Kenpachi. A man renowned for his formidable strength and relentless pursuit of combat. He was the only captain to attain his rank without attending the academy, having defeated the 10th Kenpachi, Kiganjo Kenpachi, in the presence of over 200 Shinigami. At present, the captain, a notably tall individual with spiked hair and a prominent scar on the side of his face, was reclining on the grass under the sun while he listened to the report. Upon its conclusion, a fierce grin emerged on his face, and his eyes gleamed with anticipation. Adjacent to him, a young girl with pink hair was crouched down, intently observing a group of ants. Without turning around, she asked, "Ken-chan, would you like to engage in an enjoyable activity?" She held the position of vice-captain of the 11th Division, uniquely entitled to address Zaraki in such a manner. Ultimately, she was essentially his adopted daughter. Amusing. An intriguing individual is expected to arrive shortly. I anticipate that he will provide an engaging experience. Yachiru offered a subtle smile. As long as her Ken-chan was content, nothing else held significance in the world. She earnestly wished that this individual possessed the strength to enhance Zaraki's happiness further. Rukongai, 1st District, West. All divisions received this piece of news, not just the 5th and 11th Divisions. The report was disseminated to every division. The captains exhibited a variety of responses. Some individuals exhibited disinterest, while others displayed curiosity, and some approached with caution. However, it was evident that one aspect stood out. Before even setting foot on the Siriiti, Naruto Uzumaki was already making waves. At the same time, Naruto Uzumaki, the focal point of attention, was enjoying a delightful cake with a contented smile. His expression appeared to be dissolving in contentment. Rukongai West Gate. Today, under the bright sun, a large group of individuals dressed in modest attire moved collectively towards the west gate of the Siriiti. A region they would typically steer clear of. The rationale behind this was straightforward. The examination for admission into the second session of the academy was set to commence. For many individuals residing in the Rukongai, this represented a chance to escape the constraints of poverty and pursue an improved quality of life. Despite the remarkably low success rate, they remained unconcerned. They required sufficient power to gain access to the school. Ultimately, even the most basic soldier Shinigami enjoyed a lifestyle that was significantly more privileged than that of the residents in the Rukongai. Amidst the crowd, Naruto, accompanied by Toshiro, could only frown at the evident disparity in the surroundings. Initially, the Siriiti and the Rukongai appeared to be divided merely by a river. One side exhibited signs of poverty, while the other side displayed signs of opulence. Nonetheless, the line that appeared straightforward was merely an illusion. Ultimately, Naruto was able to perceive the spherical barrier that appeared to encompass the Siriiti. He was uncertain about its exact power and the effects it might have, but it was evident that this was a serious matter. Naruto meticulously adjusted the bandage covering his eyes. He had conducted a search for glasses. However, the pair he wore during his lifetime was custom crafted by the Aburame clan to completely obstruct all light. It was not something that could be produced by individuals in the Rukongai. As they lacked a face mask, this was the sole method to provide his mind with some respite. The Rokugan undoubtedly possessed a power akin to a cheat, yet the volume of information it consistently transmitted was quite overwhelming. Even now, despite having his eyes bound, he could still technically perceive. Consequently, he typically required to obstruct his vision in some manner. Toshiro, are you certain about proceeding with this? Feeling somewhat disengaged during the wait, he opted to initiate a casual conversation. Since Momo returned to the academy, the two spent a significant amount of time together, and he had to acknowledge that the boy had become quite endearing to him. He had to acknowledge that the boy's exceptional talent and ability to learn quickly were somewhat beneficial. Certainly. You previously mentioned that I possess a hidden talent. I do not wish to, I aim to remain productive. Naruto offered a slight smile. Are you suggesting that you don't want Momo to advance too quickly? Although it was only a brief period, it was evident how strong the bond was between Momo and Toshiro. Their relationship lacked any romantic elements, yet their friendship was characterized by a remarkable purity. Just as he was preparing to further jest with Toshiro, a loud rumble interrupted his contemplation. The gate was gradually opening, revealing a giant standing behind it. Naruto lifted the edge of the bandages obscuring his vision to gain a clearer view of the men standing above them and let out a low whistle. The individual operating the gate was a robust figure, towering at over 9 meters, nearing the height of 10. He was taken aback by the evident joy displayed by the souls upon his arrival, with several of them even gesturing in greeting. Are you familiar with him? Certainly. It is Jidanbo, the protector of the western entrance for over 300 years. He is a valued acquaintance, and he is well regarded by everyone in the Rakangai. Excuse me. This is quite intriguing. Individuals interested in successfully gaining admission to the academy. The initial assessment is straightforward. The gatekeeper will emit his Ryatsu. Individuals who are able to pass through the gate under these circumstances may proceed to enter. Rest assured, he will not exert maximum effort, rather, he will take measures to reduce the number of individuals who do not meet the minimum requirements to attempt the test. A bearded middle-aged man, dressed in a black kimono and holding a book, was the one speaking. Please ensure you contact me by this afternoon and proceed with your name registration. I officially announce the commencement of the test. I wish you the utmost success. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching this amazing video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.